Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Jnana Goswami, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jnana Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Jnana Goswami, His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Gaur Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Iskon Vartmana Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, His Congregation Acharya, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakti Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Shri Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Mathura Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Dham Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Dev Samaveta Bhakti Ki Jai. Oh, glories to the Son of the Devotee. Oh, glories to the Son of the Devotee. Oh, glories to the Son of the Devotee. Oh, glories to Shishiguru and Gauranga. Oh, glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Can I get the Bhagavata? 11th canto? Can you open the window? You can close the door if you like. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Can you put this somewhere else? Because I cannot, oh, this fell off. I cannot have it here, it's just very uncomfortable to be tied up. So I could fix it somewhere here or something. I'll try to do something about it.
Can you open this door, Prabhu?
Oh yeah, you can.
But it's not sufficient.
Yeah. Okay, this doesn't want to start, so what can I do? Oh, it started now. Okay. So this is our last part of the Avanti Brahmana seminar or series of lectures. And we have about 61. We have 20 verses actually to go through. So we will not read all the purports, but we will read verses, and I will not read Sanskrit also. So now this is the most important part of all, this last part. But today there was the celebrations, so not many devotees are able to come. Okay, so I will just read Sanskrit of the first verse, this 41. Leave it. Paribhuta imam gatam agayata naradamaihi patayadbi swadharmasto dritim astaya satvikim. Even while being insulted by these low-class men who were trying to effect his downfall, he remained steady in his spiritual duties. Fixing his resolution in the mode of goodness, he began to chant the following song. So we are at the beginning of the song of the Avanti Brahmana. And immediately the commentators of this verse, Hridayananda Maharaj and Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu, immediately quoted the verse 1833 in the Bhagavad Gita, which describes the determination in the mode of goodness. So for us, we want to have this determination in the mode of goodness. That means unbreakable determination. That means that nothing can actually stop this determination. So this is also mentioned here, unbreakable determination, which is unbreakable and which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and thus control the mind, life, and the acts of the senses is in the mode of goodness. So here the Naradamas, or people who are envious of devotees, are described, and they were actually insulting the Avanti Brahmana. Naradamas, the lowest among men. Now, people, ordinary people, they think that when they satisfy their senses, then they will become peaceful. So by satisfying their senses, they will become peaceful. And they may be peaceful after eating or after sexual intercourse for some time, but actually because the way they are satisfying their senses is sinful, then this will not bring them peace. This will bring them more suffering, and this will bring them reactions. And also it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita is like when you pour oil on fire, it burns more and more. Similarly, if you pour more sense gratification, expose your senses to more sense gratification, then actually they want more and more and more. Then people are not satisfied with ordinary sense gratification, then they want some perverted sense gratification, intoxication. You know, in the beginning you start with some soft drugs, then you go to harder drugs, then you go to heroin, and then you go to, you know, harder and harder drugs, and then at the end you actually kill yourself completely. So, okay, so the song of the Avanti Brahmana is starting, and I'm glad that more of you have come, because this is the most important part. The whole chapter is called the Song of the Avanti Brahmana, and this song starts at the verse 41 and goes until the verse 50 something or 60. I mean, the last verse is 61, but it stops earlier. Okay, I will not read Sanskrit, and I will not read all the purports, but only the most important ones. At least those which I have chosen. The Brahmana said, "These people are not the cause of my suffering, my happiness and distress. Neither are the demigods, my own body, the planets, my past work or time. Rather, it is the mind alone that causes happiness and distress and perpetuates the rotation of material life. The powerful mind actuates the functions of the material modes from which evolve the different kinds of material activities in the modes of goodness, ignorance and passion. From the activities in each of these modes develop the corresponding statuses of life." Now, this verse, 43, has a very important purport. It's not long. And I want to welcome all devotees who are watching also on the internet, and also all of you. You had a very intense day of barbecuing and chanting, and having a sun bath like this. So even neighbors, we are celebrating by throwing this petard, how you call it?
What?
This, how you call it? Explosion?
No, like
That's un petardo.
Petarda, yeah, petarda. But I don't know in German how you call it.
in German, like Knaller oder Feuer. Ja, so Böller.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Listen to this, very, very interesting purport. In the mode of goodness, one considers oneself to be saintly or wise person. We don't have that problem. In the mode of passion, one struggles for material success. We don't have that problem. And in the mode of ignorance, one becomes cruel, lazy, and sinful. We also don't have that problem, almost. By the combination of the material modes, one identifies himself as a demigod, a king, a rich capitalist, a wise scholar, etc. These conceptions are material designations generating from the modes of nature. What did you say? Bala? For the
Bella.
Bela.
Bella.
Bela.
Bella.
Okay, the word Balia in this verse means very strong. So it says that powerful mind. Powerful, very powerful mind. Can't find where it is here. Balias at the end of the first line. Very strong. Manaha, the mind, indicates that the material mind becomes insensitive to intelligent advice. So do you understand this? This is such a practical thing. So I mean, they have made commentaries to these verses based on the commentaries of the Acharyas. So I'm sure this is from the Acharyas, this point, because see how they explain. It says the word Balia indicates that the mind has become insensitive to a good advice, or what did it say? Intelligent advice. Yes, intelligent advice. Even if we are informed that we are committing many sins and offenses in order to earn money, we may still think that money should be acquired at all costs, since without it one can neither perform religious ceremonies nor gratify the senses with beautiful women, mansions, and vehicles. Once the money is achieved, one suffers further problems, but the stubborn mind will never heed good advice in this regard. One must therefore give up mental concoction and control the mind in Krishna consciousness, as exemplified here by the Brahmana from Avanti. So people are so proud that they have a car, they have a wives, cars, and they have a lot of money. And there is one rich businessman who has 600 restaurants, I think all over the world, or something like that. And they ask him, do you fear, how do you feel in these times, difficult times? And so he is feeding some of his employees in one of the companies, but he has many companies, many restaurants. And he is worth, all assets, his assets are worth like $2 billion. And then they ask him, but why you are laying off people, or laying off means firing people. He's fired some people. And then he said, yes, I have so much in assets, but who will buy this now? Nobody will buy. I have yachts, I have houses, I have cars, I don't know what else he has. And then they asked him, are you afraid? And he said, I'm not afraid of anything, but I worry about everything. So worry is also a fear. I worry about everything. So the more you have, the more you are in anxiety to not lose it, and we don't have that problem. So what do we have? How much do you have in bank?
How much? 2,500.
How much?
2,500.
3,000.
2,000.
This is not much.
No.
How many houses do you have?
Houses?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have.
You don't have a house. Who has a car? Venimadava Prabhu, do you have a car?
No, Prabhu.
In India, no?
Look, this is summer, but my shirt is torn, so but still I am wearing. If I wear this one, if I go like this one, people will laugh at, so that's why I am wearing.
And who has more than one wife? I don't have even one. So, anyway, people have so many things, but it is described in the Bhagavatam. I can't remember Sanskrit. In the second canto, it is described that all these are fallible soldiers. We know from the Bhagavatam, Ato griha kshetra sutapta vitair janasya moho yamaham mameti. Janasya moho, all people are in illusion that I am this body and everything related to this body is mine. Aham mameti. And what is this that one has? Griha, kshetra, suta, apta, vitair. Home, property, sons and daughters, relatives, and wealth. And people become attached to these things. And sometimes devotees that I coach say, I want to become rich for Krishna. And then sometimes maybe they can make some money, sometimes not. Or sometimes they become rich and they forget about Krishna. They say, Krishna already has so much, why should I give him? I mean, I don't have so much. I was always poor and finally I have something. So, Krishna has so many donors and Krishna has everything. So these things are values for materialistic people, but not for a devotee. And devotee will use everything in Krishna's service. Although present along with the struggling mind within the material body, the super soul is not endeavoring because he is already endowed with transcendental enlightenment. Acting as my friend, he simply witnesses from his transcendental position. I, the infinitesimal spirit soul, on the other hand, have embraced this mind, which is the mirror reflecting the image of the material world. Thus, I have become engaged in enjoying objects of desire, and I am entangled due to contact with the modes of nature. This is his reflection. He is aware there is a super soul, and then he says, I have embraced the mind. So the soul has embraced the mind and identified with the mind and the senses, and in this way became entangled and developed false ego. Charity, prescribed duties, observance of major and minor regulative principles, hearing from scripture, pious works, and purifying vows all have as their final aim the subduing of the mind. So you see, all these activities are aimed at controlling the mind. And the last sentence of this verse describes the highest yoga. The highest yoga is concentration of the mind on the Supreme. Concentration of the mind on the Supreme. If one's mind is perfectly fixed and pacified, then tell me, what need does one have to perform ritualistic charity and other pious rituals? And if one's mind remains uncontrolled, lost in ignorance, then of what use are these engagements for him? So one should understand what rituals are there for. People perform rituals because they want to get some benefit, some material benefit. They pay for the rituals. The priests make ritual or make yagya so that I can get healthy, or you can save the person that died. All the senses have been under the control of the mind since time immemorial, and the mind himself never comes under the sway of any other. He is stronger than the strongest, and his godlike power is fearsome. Therefore, anyone who can bring the mind under control becomes the master of all the senses. So if you ask, how can I control the senses? The answer is you have to control the mind. If you control the mind is above the senses according to Bhagavad Gita, and that means that you can control the senses. But just see this description, this is amazing. The mind never comes under the control of anything. He is stronger than the strongest. And his godlike power is fearsome, godlike power, because the mind is the representation of Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, of senses I am the mind. So the mind is also Krishna's energy, and it's so powerful because it's Krishna's energy. So we cannot conquer the mind by some tricks. We cannot conquer the mind by some non-spiritual techniques. Even by Ashtanga Yoga, it's difficult to conquer the mind. Failing to conquer this irrepressible enemy, the mind, whose urges are intolerable and who torment the heart, many people are completely bewildered and create useless quarrel with others. Thus they conclude that other people are either their friends, their enemies, or parties indifferent to them. So now instead of blaming all these people who are torturing him, he's just describing how he is conditioned with his mind. Such an intelligent person. He has become so intelligent. Who can think like this? Imagine somebody's torturing you and you sit and think, well, it's not them. I'm responsible. My mind is responsible. My choices are responsible. That's amazing. This kind of thinking, it's amazing. Persons who identify with the body, which is simply the product of the material mind, are blinded in their intelligence, thinking in terms of I and mine, because of their illusion of this I, but that is someone else. This is I and this is someone else. They wander in endless darkness. And now all these things that he has listed in the few verses before, in this first verse, he says who is not the cause of his happiness and distress, and that the mind is. Now he is describing each and every one of them. So this section is also very important. Now we are already on the verse 50. If you say that these people are the cause of my happiness and distress, then where is the place of the soul in such a conception? It's an amazing question. This happiness and distress pertain not to the soul, but to the interactions of material bodies. So the soul shouldn't be disturbed by what happens to the body, or between the bodies. If someone bites his tongue with his own teeth, like this, at whom he become angry in his suffering. Again, taking responsibility, he says, I'm my own enemy, or my mind is my own enemy. My choices are my own enemy. I'm just looking at the purport. Okay, next verse. If you say that the demigods who rule the bodily senses cause suffering, still how can such suffering apply to the spirit soul? This acting and being acted upon are merely interactions of the changeable senses and their presiding deities. When one limb of the body attacks another, with whom can the person in that body be angry? Imagine this hand attacks this hand. And now I'm angry at Bhakta Philip. Why you are looking at my hands like this? And why are you making my hand hit the other hand? So again, taking responsibility for his own misery. It's amazing way of thinking. It's just incredible. Now, more difficult philosophically points are coming. If the soul himself were the cause of happiness and distress, then we could not blame others,
since happiness and distress would be simply the nature of the soul. According to this theory, nothing except the soul actually exists, and if we were to perceive something besides the soul, that would be illusion. Therefore, since happiness and distress do not actually exist in this concept, why become angry at oneself or others? Okay, this is a little bit more complicated. I want to read the purport. It's short purport. We are doing well on time. Because a dead body does not feel pleasure or pain, our happiness and distress are due to our own consciousness, which is the nature of the soul. So remember that our happiness and distress are due to our own consciousness. It is not, however, the original function of the soul to enjoy material happiness and suffer material distress. These are produced by ignorant material affection and enmity based on false ego. Our involvement in sense gratification drags our consciousness into the material body, where it is shocked by the inevitable bodily pains and problems. On the spiritual platform, there is neither material happiness nor distress, because there the living consciousness is fully engaged without personal desire in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. This is the actual position of happiness, aloof from false bodily identification. Rather than uselessly becoming engaged with others for one's own foolishness, one should take to self-realization and solve the problems of life. So imagine you are passing a place where the movie is made. People make the movie, there is cameras, there is a director, there is actors, and all of a sudden they drag you into this and say, you have to play. And all of a sudden they give you some dress and put a little makeup, and all of a sudden they give you identity. And you say, well, what shall I do? You have to play, I don't know, Pirate of the Caribbean. And then you start to think, oh, how can I do this? Or maybe Johnny Depp, and maybe I should smile, or I should be witty, or whatever. And you try to play this role, and at the same time you start to identify with this role very strongly. So similarly, we are dragged into the material body, and of course we wake up. I mean, when we get out of the womb, then there is a mother, there is the whole thing, so we think I'm the baby and things like that. So you're dragged into a new role by the laws of nature, by the laws of karma, and you're forced to identify with this. If you were a king in your past life, and all of a sudden you're born, Prabhupada used to say this many times, a president of the state was born, I don't know, like a dog in Sweden. President of some state was born as a dog in Sweden. So imagine, one life you're president, the next life you're born as a dog in Sweden, and then maybe you still have some remembrance, which is rare, and you think, how can I be a dog? No, nobody's respecting me. People are throwing stones at me or whatever. They're giving me bones and I want to eat, steaks. I want to eat meat. So now presently you have certain body and you have been identifying, but now you have been hearing for so many years that you are not this body, and you're a little bit not identifying with this body. And if somebody tells you something, like if a Krishna conscious person is insulted about the shape of his body, he is not insulted very much. He says, like for example, if you insult a materialist and tell him you are ugly, he will get mad at you and he will break your nose and he will make sure that you are also ugly. But if you insult a devotee with such a thing, he says you are ugly, you are skinny, you are fat, then you say, oh, thank God I am not this body. Because he doesn't identify. Okay, next verse. And if we examine the hypothesis that the planets are the immediate cause of suffering in this sense, remember astrology? Planets? Then also, where is the relationship with the soul who is eternal? After all, the effect of the planets applies only to things that have taken birth. Expert astrologers have moreover explained how the planets are only causing pain to each other. Therefore, since the living entity is distinct from these planets and from the material body, against whom should we vent his anger? So you are angry at your astrological chart, or you become conditioned by your astrological chart. You have a reading astrological and you say, I'm completely lost, I will be unsuccessful, my karma is bad. But Krishna can change your karma. Karmani nirdahati kintu kacha bhakti bhajan. Krishna reduces karma of a devotee. So sometimes people go for a reading and they get very bad reading. They say, oh, you were a great rascal in the past life. And they think, okay, this lifetime I can't do anything. I'll just sit and lament till the end of my life. One astrologer said to one person that in past life you messed up a lot with women, and in this life it's good if you help women. You will purify your Venus. You will purify your Venus, and that may be useful advice to, you know, if you keep harming some people in the past life, in this life you serve them, women, children, whatever, whoever, any specific group. So we are not conditioned by our astrology and by the planets. This is what he is saying here too. If we assume that fruitive work is the cause of happiness and distress, we still are not dealing with the soul. The idea of material work arises when there is a spiritual actor who is conscious and the material body that undergoes the transformation of happiness and distress as a reaction to such work. Since the body has no life, it cannot be the actual recipient of happiness and distress, nor can the soul, who is ultimately completely spiritual and aloof from the material body. Since karma thus has no ultimate basis in either the body or the soul, at whom can one become angry? So we can say you get angry at your fate or at your karma. You get angry at this. Now the next one, if we accept time as the cause of happiness and distress, that experience cannot apply to the spirit soul, since time is a manifestation of the Lord's spiritual potency, and the living entities are also expansions of the Lord's spiritual potency manifesting through time. Certainly a fire does not burn its own flames or sparks, nor does the cold harm its own snowflakes, or hail. In fact, the spirit soul is transcendental and beyond the experience of material happiness and distress. At whom, therefore, should one become angry? So he is arguing so much against becoming angry at anybody else, at anyone else. This is such liberation. This is such a liberation. People are just torturing themselves by criticizing and blaming others. Isn't it? By criticizing and blaming others, we are actually torturing ourselves. Now, he says, the false ego gives shape to illusory material existence and thus experiences material happiness and distress. The spirit soul, however, is transcendental to material nature. He can never actually be affected by material happiness and distress in any place under any circumstance or by the agency of any person. A person who understands this has nothing whatsoever to fear from the material creation. Now this is already a very high level. It seems that he has come to the beginning of this level. He understands the conditioning by the false ego, and he understands that the spirit soul is transcendental to material nature and to the false ego. And one who understands this, who has realized this deeply, he is fearless. He doesn't have any fears anymore. And now very famous verse is coming, which is quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is verse 57, and I will read the Sanskrit because it's just such an important verse. We have like 4 more verses to go to the end of the chapter. And there is a long purport, and he quotes actually Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and the whole purport speaks about sannyas. This is famous verse. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited it. Etam sa astaya paratmanishtam adyasitam purvatamair maharshi bihi aham tarishyami turanta param tamo mukunda grinisheva yaiva. I shall cross over the insurmountable ocean of nations by being firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Krishna. This was approved by the previous acharyas who were fixed in firm devotion to the Lord, Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's already somewhere else. He is not in this condition. People are torturing him, spitting on him, insulting him. And first thing he does, he first says, I'm not going to get angry at anybody. And he is listing to whom he will not get angry. And the next thing he says, I'm determined to cross over the ocean of material existence by engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, and this was done by the previous acharyas. So he's already taken shelter of the acharyas, of the parampara, of the Lord, of the devotional service of the Lord, and he's in a safe place. Although it seems like he's like a bum who is everybody is spitting on, but he's actually very elevated already. So he has taken real sannyas. He has taken real sannyas. I will just take a couple of things from the purport to share with you. The whole purport is speaking about taking sannyas and difference between Ekadandi sannyasi, which is Mayavadi sannyasi, and Tridandi sannyasi, which is Vaishnava sannyasi. So Tridanda refers to do you remember Tridanda refers to Karmana, Manasa, Vacha, or
word, mind, and speech?
Yes, these 3 words. So completely surrendered to the service of the Lord, these 3, and then at the end, this famous verse from Upadeshamrita is quoted: Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jihva vegam, udaropasta vegam, etan vegan yo vishaheta dhiraha, sarvam apimam pritivim sashishyat. So, who can become a guru? Who can become a preacher? One who can control the forces of speech, mind, anger, belly, tongue, and genitals is known as a Goswami and is competent to accept disciples all over the world. This also refers to sannyas. It says here that this verse advocates that one should accept the Tridanda sannyas order by controlling the 6 forces. Controlling this Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jihva Vegam, Udarapasta Vegam. Forces of speech, mind, anger, belly, tongue, and genitals. Speech, mind, anger, belly, tongue, and genitals. Now this is the last last verse in the song of Avanti Brahmana. So there was about maybe, I don't know, 10 verses or 15 verses where he is speaking, describing different things. It's not very long, the song of the Avanti Brahmana. Now the verse goes back to Krishna. Lord Krishna is speaking. Last 3 verses, last 4 verses, Lord Shri Krishna is speaking. Thus becoming detached upon the loss of his property, this sage gave up his moroseness. He left home, taking sannyas, and began to travel about the earth. Even when insulted by foolish rascals, he remained unswerved from his duty, undeviated from his duty, and chanted this song. So here he chanted this, it seems like he chanted repeatedly this song. And also, the last verse describes the benefits of listening to this story. Okay, but there is 2 more verses before the last verse. No other force besides his own mental confusion makes the soul experience happiness and distress. Now this is the second time he says the same thing. What causes the soul to experience happiness and distress? His own mental confusion. Who can swallow this? His perception of friends, neutral parties and enemies, and the whole material life he builds around this perception are simply created out of ignorance. So important what perception we have, how we look at the world. Purport: everyone is working hard to please their friends, defeat their enemies, and maintain the status quo with neutral parties. These relations are certainly based on the material body and do not exist beyond the body's inevitable demise. They are called ignorance or material illusion. Now Krishna has told this whole story so that he can tell him something in the verse 60. In the next verse, he says, "My dear Uddhava, fixing your intelligence on me, like Avanti Brahmana, you should thus completely control the mind like Avanti Brahmana." I'm adding this like Avanti Brahmana because the whole story was spoken to stress this point. This is the essence of the science of yoga. Fix your intelligence on me, and in this way completely control the mind. And the last verse describes the benefits of hearing this story. This whole chapter 23 of the 11th canto. Anyone who listens to or recites to others this song of the sannyasi, which presents scientific knowledge of the Absolute, and who thus meditates upon it with full attention, will never again be overwhelmed by the dualities of material happiness and distress. So you have been listening, you are in this verse, you have been listening, I have been reciting to you this song, and result will be that we will never again be overwhelmed by the dualities of material happiness and distress. But I have a point, it's not enough to hear it once. You may say, well, now I can go and take prasadam peacefully. No, it's not enough to hear it once, and therefore I have been preaching this chapter for at least in 5 countries, 5 times. And somewhere, I mean, I will also work on the book. I don't know if it will be a book, but some written material. I don't know if I am qualified to write the book, but I will do something from the transcriptions, try to present some points. And so this is the great benefit, and I don't know how, but this 23rd chapter just stands like this in my mind, like sticks out. Like maybe you have some parts of the scriptures that really stick out. And you think, wow, this is so important, this chapter. And for me, this is like, I mean, you know this verse 10, 14, 8. 10, Canto 10, chapter 14, text 8, Tatenukampam susamikshamano bunjana evatma krita vipakam, you know, in the Bhagavad Gita, 12, 13, 14 in the purport. We read this, you read it. So this verse, basically this verse is very much related to this. And Srila Prabhupada said that this verse 10:14.8, Tatenukapam Susamikshmano, should be the guide of all devotees. And this is elaboration on this, the whole chapter. Detailed elaboration, how we should not blame anyone, but take full responsibility and be grateful that we get less than we deserve. You may say, it's not fair. Yes, it's not fair. But on the opposite side, you don't get what you deserve, you get less. And you think it's not fair, I'm getting too much. But actually it's opposite. So, we are lucky to have this 11th canto also, because it has Uddhava Gita, which is like probably 20 chapters of this canto, about maybe 19 chapters or something. Uddhava Gita starts maybe 5th chapter and goes to almost the end, 29th. I think it has 31. I'm not sure. Let me see what's the last chapter here. 30. Yeah, 30 chapters. So almost the whole canto is Uddhava Gita. And within Uddhava Gita there is Bhikshu Gita. What is Bhikshu Gita? Huh? Which one? Which part is called Bhikshu Gita? And what is Bhikshu? Bhikshu or Bhikkhu is also described in the Buddhist tradition. You didn't read Buddhist books. Bhikshu means mendicant. You know mendicant? You know what is mendicant? Can you translate mendicant into German? Mendicant? No, not vagabond. Mendicant is like a...
Merchant?
What?
Like a merchant?
No.
Like a sannyasi.
Yeah. Mendicant is like a traveling monk.
Mendicant.
Traveling monk who is usually poor. He begs sometimes. He gets whatever life brings him. He eats little. Very, very austere. And usually he, maybe preaches a little bit or blesses somebody a little bit. Mendicant. So Bhikshu Gita is this chapter. This is Bhikshu Gita. So within Uddhava Gita is Bhikshu Gita. Yes?
Sometimes I think Jnana Prabhu is also considered as a bhikshu, like a traveling mendicant.
Yes.
Because in one verse you say that he is grass jewel among the mendicants.
Oh, yes. I don't know what is the Bengali word for this.
Avaduta Shiromani.
Avaduta.
Shiromani. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, very nice. Thank you. This is a beautiful example. So also, Lord Nityananda is it's called homeless wanderer. I remember, I think it was in a Buddhist book when I was before I joined, was reading, and I read these two words, homeless wanderer, and I thought, wow, this is so nice. Maybe I had attachment to this lifestyle from previous life, and then after, I think 25 years in Krishna consciousness, Krishna gave me that lifestyle again. I mean, I was dreaming of such a lifestyle, but I was always bound to one place, more or less. So thank you very much for listening to this 3 or 4 part seminar. And now we can take time to discuss what we have discussed over the past 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And any points that you would like to clarify or to make a comment about this, and we can take our time now to discuss a little bit together. And also for the service of those who are online, who are listening online. There is devotees who are listening online. Yes?
I have a question as well. If you have bad karma, like you have a lot of pain, I don't know in which field, any field, but so much pain that it's so strong that you cannot really fix the mind anymore because this pain is so prominent. So you cannot apply this song.
What is your question?
What to do? Like,
When you have too much physical pain, mental pain,
whatever.
this pain should be used as an awakening tool to make us determined to find out what's the problem. So this pain has a purpose. It's not that we are getting pain just like this. Just there is, God is a little bit want to, entertain himself that somebody is having pain and he's like a sadist, and he is enjoying our pain. No, pain is a message. Pain is a message from the Lord. You are doing something wrong. Think deeply. And there is always, there is strong pain, but there is always a few seconds where this pain stops. And this is when, even if it's few seconds, you can think and you can make a decision, I'm going to stop this nonsense. I'm suffering like a dog, like an ass. I have to stop this. Okay, now I'm going to suffer next couple of days, but I'm going to work on stopping all suffering. I remember when I was a student, they give you 15-day test training for the army in Yugoslavia. And I went there because you have to go. It's by law. And there is like 50 people in the room. I never slept with 50 people. I only slept with my brother or alone. But the room stinks. I was not born in a aristocratic family, a room full of perfumes. But still, they don't wash their feet. And they also, they're smoking, they're swearing, they're, eat onion and garlic. At that time they eat meat. I was also eating meat, but I didn't like it. So, and then we get up, then we walk all day in the sunshine. Then, if we are good, then you are allowed to open one button. And you feel so much relief. Oh, one button, have a shirt. And I said to myself, never, ever, ever I'm going to go to the army. Never, even dead or alive. And then the time came, they invited me. And I did some funny things I don't want to tell you. To get free, but they didn't free me. They say, you are fit. And I was thinking, we shall see. We shall see. Okay, so after some time, after a couple of months, they invite me. It was winter. And I went. Started my regular term. And then first day, it was so cold that I started to shake. You have this, when they put you in order, in the morning, you have to start, and the officer passes, and you're standing like a real soldier. And I started to shake because it was cold, and I was thinking, if my body is shaking, maybe I should actually pretend that I'm disturbed. That I'm actually mentally disturbed. And then they say, what's happening? Okay, let's go to the ambulance, surgery. And they brought me there. And then two boys who are like medical, some stuff, they come with this injection, how is it called? Injection? Mm-hmm. What? Spritze. Yes, spritze. And they say, oh, here is injection for pretenders, for cheaters. And I'm not laughing, I'm just serious, and and they give me injection to calm me down. And 2 weeks I was not 2 weeks there, but maybe a few days there. Then they brought me to Belgrade, like a special case, to the psychiatry. And they freed me. I had some connections. They freed me for 3 years, and in the meantime I joined Hare Krishna. But I want to go back to this point. This pain and this horrible experience of having these 2 weeks with all these boys, I developed such determination that no matter what, even if I have to run away from the country, I'm not going to go. Okay, so I spent 2 weeks first, and then after 3 years, they invited me again. But now I was more normal because I was chanting Hare Krishna for 2 years. And I got some weight. At that time I was skinny. I got some weight, but I tried to reduce weight again to 54, 55 kilo. But I don't know, I mean, it helped a little bit. Unfortunately, they checked my heart and there were some problems in, how it beats. So that was one point. Another point, they found out I'm in a sect, and 12 doctors invited me. Are you in a sect? No, military doctors. I said, no, it's a culture. Then I say, well, this is lifestyle. And he said, so what is your problem? And they look like very suspicious like this. And I say, I have nightmares. I have a dream of half man, half lion. And they say, oh, really? I say, I get wet. But it's true that I had nightmares. They were a little bit different. But I also had I was out-of-body experience in the night sometimes. I had some nightmares because I fell in love with one girl, and I wanted to go to her in subtle body. So once I really went out of the body, I was awake, and I got scared. I mean, because I wanted so much to go out, and I went out, and this was like one of my nightmares. When I woke up, when I came back to the body, I was completely wet. I was sweating like anything because I was scared. Anyway, I told them a couple of things, then heart problems, and they gave me a diagnosis. You are free forever. And you are, like they say, you are borderline, you are almost crazy, borderline. And so they didn't want to label me as completely crazy. So they're very nice. And the doctor told me, you should come for therapies. And I said, yes, I will come for therapies, of course. And then I like this doctor, this lady, and I told my mother, make halava. And I offered halava, and I gave her Bhagavad Gita and halava. And I never went to therapy. I went back to the Hare Krishna temple therapy. So this pain actually made me so determined to never experience this again, to be, in the army and, learn how to kill. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit belligerent, but I don't want to kill people, don't like to kill people, unless they are complete demons. So this is maybe one example that how the pain should make us determined to stop the pain. That's the point. Otherwise, if everything is comfortable, we never change. We just remain, it's not so bad. I mean, maybe I go a little bit to heavenly planets, then get born on earth again. It's half heavenly, half hellish. So, but I don't know if I slip to the hellish planets a little bit, but maybe I should preach there or something. It's a little bit traveling around the universe. Brahmana? Bhumite Kona Bhagavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasada Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. The soul is traveling from universe to universe, from this body to that body. So does this make sense to you? Yeah? The purpose of pain?
Yeah, in case of a terminal disease where you have only pain, then normally you get help from doctors to get relief of this pain.
You can take some painkillers and then get to some sanity, and devotees can preach to you, or you can read. The pain is the message of the Lord to change. To change the way we think, to change our consciousness, to change our activities, to stop nonsense, stop sinful activities. And it is going to continue until we get it. So Krishna is always asking us, do you get it? We say yes, then we do nonsense again. And Krishna says, you told me you got it, but it seems you didn't. Now do you get it? You see how much you are suffering. You're on the floor. You're crawling on the floor. You're crying. You've fallen in love with a girl. She doesn't want you. So, do you get it? I want you more than any girl. Oh, really? But I don't like you. I like this girl. But she will grow old. She is not this body. You don't know how she looks like. Krishna says. I say, well, that's right. I mean, I'm in illusion, sorry. You have your eternal family in the spiritual world. You can enjoy there with, my devotees and with myself. Come back to me. I love you more than anybody else. And we think, I will find the perfect partner in this world. I will find my prince. I will find my princess. And at least one lifetime I can have my romance. Then maybe I can go back to Godhead. Good luck. Everybody is dreaming the same dream. You come to me for a coaching session, or somebody comes to me for a coaching session. What do you want? Well, I just want to be happy. I want to have a nice house, a nice wife, nice children, nice job, or maybe passive income, it's better. And live peacefully, maybe give a little bit in charity here, but this nowadays it's not safe. People come through the open door. So maybe not throw it here, I give it to the temple president. And then I say, well, this is really original. This is really innovative. I mean, I have never heard anybody has such a desire. I have never heard that anybody wants a house, a wife, a children, money, and nowadays it's becoming popular to have money without work. And, peaceful life in the material world. How can you have a peaceful life in the material world when the material world is made for trouble? So we are learning from the Brahmana that he has actually realized all these things. He has realized all these things. Okay, any other question? Oh, you're very elegant, like this, cool.